Hi, and welcome to the Zen Supermom podcast. Today is one of these episodes where I'm not going to be alone. Because if you've been listening or watching some of our older episodes, always when I bring a guest on this podcast, it is somebody who I'm very proudly and humbly introducing as one of the new team members of the Zen Supermom program. And today it's even more special, the opportunity, because I'm going to introduce you to a first man joining the team, and I'm so excited about it. So, hi, Supermom or Superdad. Alena here, your mommy tantrum specialist and the founder of the Zen Supermom system. And me and my team have helped hundreds of moms and dads start setting healthy boundaries with calm. And this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids, that shows you why none of the parenting techniques helped you stop yelling at your kids, and how to control your emotions from jumping out so that you can be the safe, loving parent you wish you had growing up. This is the Zen Supermom podcast. Please meet Viktor Bischoff.
Yeah, hello, everybody. I'm happy really to join this program and really excited also to be able to share my experience as a man in life, walking through sometimes a battlefield, but a beautiful battlefield because there's a lot of growth and learning happening for me. It changed from a battlefield of sweating and really also suffering to something where I take the challenges now and see it's a great possibility and opportunity for me to develop myself further, which for me is the most important in my life, is how I feel. And basically, what we all want to be is to be happy, and this is what I'm thriving for. But it's not easy to get there. So yes, Alena, you said to me even before to talk a bit about my background. Well, I went through quite a journey. I must say, I grew up with a family which was a refugee family escaping from the after the war to northern Germany. And my father was under a huge existential pressure. He was a very rich man at the time, or his family, and twice they lost everything. So when I was born, he existentially was under a lot of fear and internal pressure. And I must say, yes, this is something I've been struggling with, or sometimes even struggle today. I want to be very honest. It's impressions stay very deep rooted in us. And the only difference is, do I suffer from them or do I use them as a means of discovery? And the pressure from my father was sitting in my bones, that he literally beat out of me the desire to go to school. And in these ancient or beliefs which accompanied me through my life were conditioning me, like you are never good enough, or keep your emotions within yourself. A little. Don't be in German. There's a word "memme." Yeah, I'm German, and even though speaking several languages, but don't be a meme, which means, don't be a wimp, and don't hold back. So this whole kind of thing of education to be a man. And and all this pressure led to an avoidance mechanism. So I was someone who was all the time running away. And until today, I love to travel. The moment I sit in the car and I see the nature around, I'm happy. And this is something, but the downside of it is also an escape, wanting to run away. And so, in being a bit conditioned on this, certainly, well, then I have to talk about my mom. My mom was a non-wanted child. And born in the pre-fascist time and then fascist time, and she had to discover that her mom was a Jew. So she was a half Jew during the time period of the Nazis. And she was able to survive through this, through, I would say, a lot of angels around herself. So she was someone who had a deep understanding of life and its challenges, but her way to go through conflict was, if there's conflict and tension, make a fist in your pockets. So make a fist, don't act on it. But then since I'm the youngest boy in the family, so I was ever all the time the escaper and not trusted. Not trusted to a certain extent. So also, the how do you say, the guy who was the sweet one and so on. So also, pampered in a certain way, but not trusted in another way. And this has developed a lot of, I must say, it has influenced also my way of working at a certain time, or developing. So I didn't finish my school. I went to the revolutionary times in Berlin, and I lived there in a community, and so my life started to be very colorful and very nice. Anyway, all this developed. I'm talking about this conditioning because it is important. These are things we carry from our ancestors and from our families into the present moment. So what what happened then in my relationship? Interestingly, my first relationship was a woman who was 14 years older than me. So this was an interesting moment, a very loving relationship, but to some extent it was not really, it wouldn't match for the time we were living together. It was meaningful to meet someone in this period, and then life went on, and I ended up at a certain moment, in order to get to the relationship in Italy, and through a spiritual master which I met, I started to marry. He suggested to me, in order to become more stable, an Italian woman. And this was not a happy marriage. I tell this very honestly. Wonderful woman, but we did not match, but we did great things together. And one thing we did, at a certain moment, I wanted to have children, and she was not able to have children. So we adopted 3 Indian girls. And it was an amazing process how I pulled, since I'm very connected to India. It's a long story in my personal development. I spent a lot of time in India. So I wanted Indian children. And somehow, suddenly, we linked up to an organization, and these children who came we wanted two. And the organizations called us and said, "Oh, we have 3 children." And I was, "No, 3 children all in once. What is happening now?" And my ex-wife, or my wife, who saw then later as ex-wife, she said first, "No, no." And then I said, I wanted to tell, "No, we can't do this." And then she came and said, "Yes, I want them." And so we decided to have these 3 children. And I was actually, it was, to tell you, a pregnancy of both, which lasted 3 years, in order to make it able that these children arrived. They arrived because my oldest child had a very severe heart disease, rheumatic heart disease. And we found this out later. And the moment we could accelerate and have them, we went to India, and we slept with them in one big bed with the nuns all around. And it was an amazing experience of 3 weeks just living in this nunnery with all 100 children, which I would have adopted all at once. But I had these three who were just amazing kids, speaking a mixture of Tamil and Malayalam. So you can imagine and with them, at a certain moment, we moved and went back to Italy, where our house was, and we were set up. And then a whole just innocent journey started. You imagine I suddenly became a dad of a 3 year old who would pee in her pampers, still to put on pampers, a 5 year old who was so happy to be out of her poverty, and the oldest one who had breath problems with 9 years just became a woman because she had her first days when she was 9 years. And she had something which we call the Oedipus effect. So she was constantly rubbing herself on me. And when she got so close, my ex-wife got jealous. So as you imagine, everything happened in the same
All
time,
at once, yeah.
all at once, and we were the three of us were. There was a lot of love around these children because these three children were really amazing. I mean, this is a little bit different than having own children. But basically, I could see how a father is challenged immediately. And I, at this stage, did not understand really what it meant now to be a father. I tried to juggle things existentially. We we did not plan at the time. We just went for it. I think it was one of the best things in my life which I have done. I must say this. But it's been quite an issue where I can see how things are developing. And then something painful happened for me because I am at the time was informed and initiated yoga and meditation teacher in the Himalayan tradition, and I started to build up an institute. And the work happened in the evenings. So what happened is the day and the evening, very important moment for the family. I couldn't be there at times. So my wife became at the time, so she felt, I'm handling everything. What are you doing? And it started to heat up to a situation where we are not aware. I wanted to create some space where we communicate with each other and talk in an extra space and find something which now I recognize is the key, what I call relationship hygiene, in terms of you need as a parent, what I discovered, a moment of intimacy. I'm not talking about making love, but being, sitting, talking, and exchanging. And at the time, we were just not able to do so. And what happened is the mirror of the inner conditioning of our past and the mirror of the conditioning of the other one. We both are fantastic people, but the mirror of the past was in such a way that we started to nearly beat each other up till the point, and this happens. As a man, I felt so abandoned, I fall in love with another woman. And this was dramatic for in the whole situation, but I couldn't. It was so strong at the moment, and then the marriage couldn't continue. And looking back now at the time, the way we were conditioned, it was the best thing we did to separate. Unfortunately, because there was no way, and we would have blocked, and the family situation would have been at this stage not a good situation. And However, the love important was, even if the relation is difficult, how much the connection is from the heart. And my connection to my kids was all the time there. The love of the family, the love to the kids is the key thing. Because I mean, my kids, it sounds very dramatic, and I felt a lot of guilt all the time. So I was running also around with a lot of guilt. But what I want to say is that the imprints we have from our past are sometimes something which, in the moment we meet in a closer relationship, then they come out. And the maturity which I had to learn. So I then had another experience 5 years after my divorce with another woman, and with this woman, I had a son. But again, a pattern which did not match. With this woman, I met the power. She was very powerful and could get very aggressive in the power. And I was shrinking the moment she got so powerful. So I had another pattern of the nice guy who wants to be all the time, be liked and lived. And she confronted me with something very strong. And there I had my own son. And for my own son, I had to fight. I had to go to court. I had to in order to see him. He's French, and in order to see and be with him, and we love each other also very much. But with his childhood, I couldn't live really so much in the closer contact. I had the relationship with my son, which is also special, was that I had him in times, and we had a lot of fun when he was a little child, playing on the beach of France, where I lived in Nice, and we were often playing there and being together, and but I felt torn between my children there and then him. So this was an inner work. But again, as a father, to be with to be mirrored by the son, where you can see then myself. The amazing thing is I could see in my own born child, I could see traces of myself up till today. He's a great guy. He's now 18, and I had my teenage experience with him, going through through a time when we start to travel, and the only thing he could do towards me was saying no. and,
And how
and
amazing that must be for a dad. Yeah.
oh
Well,
my God.
Victor, I love it. I love how openly you just shared your life. Like basically you ran through it in
Yeah.
like a speed train, but you described everything exactly what most of the men that we work with are going through. From the suppressed emotions as a child, don't be a wimp, and just like emotions are for weak girls, like man up and take care of everybody, and all the way then exactly showing how that mirrors in your adult relationships, and then even seeing it in your own children. So thank you for doing that with such an openness, really disarming, charming, and warm welcome actually into your life, because I can imagine it's not easy to share things, and especially knowing that most of our audience is moms, sharing like, yeah, that there were relationships that were interrupted because you fell in love with somebody else. Like that is not a thing that I can imagine you're not the most proud of. But also for the men that are listening, and that's why we are doing this podcast episode, because while I'm working with lots of moms, I start hearing from more and more men, from more and more dads who are questioning, who are asking themselves, well, is there any hope for me? Can you help me too? Because indeed, they are going through something very similar to what you just described. And oftentimes it seems to them that the woman is the problem because she is like this or like that, exactly like you said, mirroring the problems of each other, mirroring their past, basically all of that generational baggage from their own parents and what relationships their parents had. But we can see it even through your story. Going out there and looking for another partner is not going to heal your stuff, because you bring yourself in your next relationship. And that's true for both moms and dads we work with. So I love that you're able to talk about it with such an openness, because I think this is a very important, like, a point to highlight for everybody here. It's not the other person, it's you. And this is exactly why we are here, to help with that. Because yes, it's a Zen Supermom podcast. It's about, let's not yell at our kids. Let's clean up the anger that's within us first. But this relationship aspect is very important one, because that's the second most often place where I see that generational childhood trauma is being thrown into and is toxically poisoning that relationship, the intimate relationship with our partners, spouses as well. So thank you very much for opening that. Now, with the respect of time, because I'm always trying to make these episodes a little bit compact. I would love, I know we could talk for hours, because I just love listening to you. All these fascinating life stories that you have. It's amazing. By the way, so everybody, I didn't say that in the beginning, but you understand now why Viktor is joining the team, right? Again, the same thing as with all the other women and the coaches I introduced before. Huge heart, a lot of experience, and the ability to learn from his own mistakes and look at his own stuff. And after healing it, this is actually what Viktor is doing now professionally as well. So you could hear him mention a couple of previous professional I would say avenues he has explored. But why I'm interviewing Viktor today and why he's joining the Zen Supermom team is because he is becoming our first Zen SuperDAD coach. So while the program will keep the label, it will be under the label of Zen Supermom. But now for all the dads, all the men who might have been listening for a couple of weeks, couple of months to this podcast and wondering, well, is it for me? Can they help me too? Because I'm a guy, I'm not a girl, I'm not a woman, I'm not a mom. Well, this is exactly why I'm hiring Viktor, because I can imagine the male generational trauma is different. It's basically exactly what Viktor just described. And this is why I invited him to join us on the team, because he is also certified in exactly the same trauma healing techniques that I have been certified, that I did the certification, and all of our female Zen Supermom coaches as well. Yeah. So how about we mention a little bit about that, Viktor, because I know your professional background is huge and so diverse. And I love it how many other things you're doing with individuals, also in the corporate world, also in the arts and the theater scene. But I would love to talk about what is it about those trauma healing techniques and about this generational trauma cleanup that you find so powerful. Why do you love it so much working with your clients?
Because, the trigger is that our minds are conditioned. And I've been studying for the last 20 years a lot about the human mind. And one part of the human mind is what we call the subconscious, which is 70 or 80% we are acting on our subconscious. And I just want to say, I just can encourage everyone, because my life, to a certain extent, yes, it is challenging. I mean, we don't live in an easy period, but it became beautiful, because the challenges become possibility to grow. And I really feel it anchors me more, even if I have my desperate moments or moments, of struggle or something like this. But basically, it suddenly a feeling of richness, being rich, not money-wise, but internally, is coming up. And when you dive into what I call the subconscious, these impressions, which are coming up through our family, our history, our education, our nations, and so on and so on. Once I see them, the fascinating thing is that I see it's like a movie. And I'm able to watch this movie, and I'm able to intervene. And this is the fascinating thing, where I think now doing this technique, this particular technique, we are using the imaginal realm. We are using the different voices and characters which are hopping in our minds and popping up. And we talk about these saboteurs, for example, which are defined characters. And once we start to dialogue within the movie with the characters, which is my movie, my story, and I discover these characters, suddenly it becomes so rich. And you see, with something which is bothering me, suddenly becomes an opportunity to discover something more. And then we are able to get into a choice and choose between the different characters and voices or attitudes or emotions, which is not easy. From my experience, I honestly, it's not easy, but it's a beautiful journey where I can become free by sometimes looking at things which are not so um, all the time so positive and so light. So when I look at the dark sides, at the dark spots within me, I discover the light. I discover the sun. The sun I only discover when I'm standing in the shadow. I can only see the sun. So when you tap into these places within you, suddenly you discover all the beauty which exists in you and which maybe your parents had pushed down, or your, I don't know, work people or friends or so on, who put you into a box. And suddenly you look outside the box. And this is amazing. This is amazing because I can say to everybody who's listening, each of us is very unique, absolutely unique. There is no double to what you are right now. There is no double. And this uniqueness, through this beautiful process which Alena is facilitating with us together, is uncovering the beauty so that the box is opening, something beautiful will come out of the box. So this one I can promise. I have experienced this, and yeah, and I'm looking forward to do the work with you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Viktor. I think we need to plan a follow-up episode with you because there are so many more stories and comparisons. And I think the dads who might be listening now, they need to hear more from men like you so that they would be given finally a good example of how a whole man, not cutting parts of you off, not cutting off the emotional, staying just in your brain and muscles and everything, a whole man, how a whole healed man looks like, what is his energy, and therefore what is possible for them. Because I think we should have more men like you inspiring others about what's possible. And then it doesn't have to be this either aggressive or depressed, but either way, having that anger locked up because somebody put you in a box, somebody chopped off parts of you because they said this is not okay, you cannot be a guy like this. Integrating it all back in, because only then you can be a great role model for your kids, right? Only then you can show them how a healthy relationships look like. And only then you find that beautiful world, even in the dark moments. Indeed, it's not all about
Yes.
unicorns and rainbows. It's tough. Yeah. So thank you so much, Viktor. Thank you for being this
Thank you.
inspiration. I love talking to you. I loved introducing you to our audience. And this is an invitation for any man who's been listening to us. Come and reach out. Viktor has joined the team. He's ready to take on the clients who come inside the program. So that's what we will be doing. You'll be going through the same program as all the women are, but you will have your male coach to do your one-to-one sessions with. And we are creating a specific, like a private group on Facebook that will be separate from the moms so that the dads can talk to dads. Will be separate from moms, and you can feel like you can show up the way you are, the way you feel. You can speak up what you feel like you cannot tell to other people around you for the fear of being judged. So that's the safe space we are creating for you too. So thank you so much, Viktor, for being part of this journey and this
Thank
very important
you.
mission. Thank you so
Lovely,
much.
lovely. Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. 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 Bye.